All right, awesome. So we will start on time. This is the concept of those meetings. And whoever joins later will join. I will also share the recording of this meeting on our Slack channel. I will share a QR code to this channel soon. And also, on Slack, mostly. So welcome everyone. And I'm excited to be here at our first Apache Pinot contributor call. And speaking of contributors, this was an initiative coming from Robert Zick, who is an Apache Pinot contributor. I'm sure most of you know. So kudos and thank you, Robert, for kicking off this initiative. And we would love to see more of those. And thank you. For those of you who doesn't know me, my name is Yarden. I'm head of community at Startry, and you see me also very active with the Pinot community. So hi, everyone. The idea of those calls is to be basically a platform, a place, a space for contributors to discuss PRs, designs, and other ideas they have with the Apache Pinot projects to get things moving and to provide support to contributors or those doing their first steps with the contributions, and also to provide the community updates. The call to be held every 2 months, pretty much. We will adjust it based on demand, based on the need. We hope with time to see more and more contributors. Today, we opened the first call to everyone for contributors and those who are willing to start contribute and to share more about the process of how to get started. So everyone are welcome to this meeting and for future meetings as well. But the people to talk and discuss would be mostly contributors on those calls. And any contributor who wants to speak is welcome to RSVP with their topic on a form I will share on the chat and also on our Slack channel, or reach out to Robert, to me, and we can arrange that. Here you can scan out the QR code to join Apache Pinot Slack in case you are not there, okay? And look for the Pinot Contributor Calls channel. We will share their updates, the meeting links, and the future event links, so you can RSVP there as well. And speaking of contributors, we cannot speak on contributors without mentioning the All-Stars program. So the All-Star program is our community champions program. It's 34 individuals who go above and beyond with contribution, advocacy, support on Slack, support on different channels. And they're really the driving engine of the Apache Pinot community. You can get to know them in the link below, and also wanted to say thank you on behalf of everyone for helping and for being there with everything and contributing to the project. This is the agenda for today. We're going to have the first 25 minutes with Xiang Fu, which is a Apache Pinot PMC and a co-founder of Startry. And afterwards, we're going to discuss the PR release with Abhishek Sharma, which is the Apache Pinot Committer. We will have time for Q&A in between, moderated by Robert Zick and Peter Corliss. And also last two updates, making sure everyone know our contribution program, okay? So if you're contributing, creating a blog, a video, a recipe, a documentation, please go scan this QR code, share it with us, and we will grant you in coins to our swag store. But more than that, we can help spread and make sure more people know what you are doing and to share it publicly on the different social media channels and the community newsletter. And almost last, Meetup in a Box. This is a new program we launched recently. Basically, we want to help everyone who wants to organize Apache Pinot meetup around the world to do it. So we are happy to back you with sponsoring, food, catering, swag, content, everything you need you have in this kit. So check the link. And last, we have a new Apache Pinot open source YouTube channel. So you can check the link again. And yeah, if you have any interesting video, something that is out there, we would be happy to feature it under this channel. So we are not re-uploading the video, but we're just featuring it and referencing to the original video to have everything in one place. And with that, I will hand it over to Xiang to take it from here, get started with contributing.
Yeah, thanks, Yardon, for the introduction. And let me just get started. Okay. Yeah, so you guys can see my screen, right? So I want to like do the full kind of the full screen ones, because for my session I probably will like switch back and forth from the presenter, the slides, and probably the IDE and those kind of things. So I just go over this. So hi everyone, this is Xiang. I'm a PMC and the committer of Apache Pinot, one of the original Pinot author, and also the co-founder and the chief architect of Startree. So yeah, for today, we are just talking about like the basic Apache Pinot and how we kind of the guidelines to set up your environment, and the basics to start the contributions. So what is Apache Pinot? Pinot is OLAP, the real-time OLAP system, and was originally built from LinkedIn, and now has been like widely adopted by like a lot of the industry lead companies. And here like is the kind of like the list of the companies that are using from like started from like the internet companies like LinkedIn, and then goes to like delivery and the logistics companies like Uber, and now we have like Web3 companies like Magic Eden or Cisco for the networking and communications, and a lot of retailers like 7-Eleven and the fintech, and also like some banking and the gaming system. They all need like all the real-time system. And data has to be like very low ingestion latency and the query latency. And also they go with like a very massive kind of query workload. It's like a very high concurrency, and they also want to ensure the experience is smooth and the latency is kind of like is expected based on like the certain threshold. So for the goal of the this session, I'm going to focusing on the 4 part. Set up your dev environment, understand some basic code structures, and then we can go to the GitHub to find pick some beginning tasks, and then we can start contribute. So the first of all is like a super basics. It's like a prerequisite of making sure you install your Java, Maven, GitHub, GitHub command line, and then you need some probably like IDE for Java, and the last thing is like you probably need a Docker command to be installed in your laptop in terms of like starting something or setting up some local environment. So this thing I'll just go through. It's like the basics, the basics of like how you can check out the code repo and start it running. So basically go to this Apache Pinot GitHub repo, making sure you start and fork it. And once you get into your repo, you can start it like oh, yeah, but because I already forked it, so I can fork it again. But anyway, it's like fork it and then click on here. You can do git clone with this command line, and then started setting up the code structure, making sure you clone your own fork, and then you set up an upstream. After you set up the upstream, you can always like sync your repo code, git repo with like the upstream, which is like the Apache Pinot repo, and then you can also git branch and making your own contribution. And this Maven clean package is like how you can build and the whole packages, and also build the distribution which can be directly used. Pretty much like the same thing you will get from the Pinot release for the distribution jars. And in terms of setting up code from IDE, usually, so I was using IntelliJ. So the most important thing here is you're going to here, going to your IntelliJ setting, and making sure you type here for the style, the code style. Okay. And here, go to the Java, and making sure from the scheme side, you are going to import a scheme from this IntelliJ. There's IntelliJ code style, Eclipse, and this check style configurations, and making sure you are importing the Pinot things. This is from whatever the Pinot code repo, and after you checking, there's something called contrib. Sorry. Config. Yeah, and then there's like a check style IntelliJ which you can use to import the coding the code style file, and then you can try to use it to format the code. Otherwise, whenever like you're making the code change, you will see a lot of like check style error when you try to submit the PR. But making sure like you're like formatting the code. For example, this is like the option command L is like how you can. For example, this is like you can try to format the code based on like the Pinot kind of coding style. And another thing is like your JDK things. Usually you can also like set it up here, and from the compiler you can actually configure what is your Java compiler, and also like from the JDK perspective, you will be able to select which JDK version you want to use to build. Right now, Pinot is supporting like JDK 11 and plus, but we usually recommend people to like probably do development with 17 and above. And we are also thinking of like upgrade the JDK version, probably like to drop the support for JDK 11 in the near future. Okay, now I'm going to talk about some of the repo structures. And before that, I want to like quickly go over like some like developing kind of like the architecture of this one. This one I will try to slideshow. So basically for Pinot, we are making Pinot to be more like a pluggable architecture. So if you see from the code module perspective, right? So we have something called the Pinot SPI, which define a lot of the interfaces. For example, the Pinot file system, this is how we are going to interact with like different, let's say deep storage. If you have a S3, HDFS or Google GCS, whatever. And then here, like you have a way to do the streaming ingestion. If it's Kafka or Kinesis or Pulsar, you can define your own way. And for Pinot input format, you can define like Avro, Parquet, or say Protobuf, Thrift, whatever the during your data ingestion, how you want to read a record from upstream, right? And also like for batch ingestion, there's a way of doing like a Spark, Flink, Hadoop, or even standalone if you want to run anything like as just a command line or through the Docker image or deploy on the Kubernetes. So there are different way of like deploying this batch data ingestion. And again, for like there's also like Pinot segment SPR. It's nothing but just like right now, when we started Pinot, everything is like you need some physical segment file, which need to be loaded into your local file system. We call it like the local segment. But later on, we want to extend the ability to make sure like Pinot is also able to like directly read the data from like the deep store like S3 or some other places. From the core SPI, yeah, as like Pinot is like when we built Pinot was pretty much like just a single stage query engine. We do only the scatter and gather, this kind of one kind of like just one level of the query execution. It will it's fast, but it's like also there's a lot of limitations to support queries like joins, and we later on extend the based on this SPI, we are going to implement like the multi-stage query engine, and now I think the Uber and Ankit they are also implementing things for like time series query engine, which will support more like on the observability kind of use cases. So this is like trying to make all those components to be like extensible. And all in all, everything will go to like Pinot Common is more for like all the utility, and also like some common class being put into the Pinot Common. And also like for the things that can be shared across different components that will also be like put into the Pinot Common. And the Pinot Core is where like a lot of the query engine core execution, a lot of those kind of things are going to the Pinot core, like the core functions, which is being like used and to be like deployed everywhere. And from the Pinot core, we have like a controller, broker, server, and minion, which is like where a lot of like it's like the different component which are actually running it's a module to build the component that will be running independently. Yeah, I won't go over into too details of like what the controller broker server and minion is. I hope everyone knows it. And yeah, of course, like for the for the indexes, we'll we'll also try to extract that one out later. But that's kind of like how this pluggable architecture is. And now let's go back to this kind of the repo structure, right? So a lot of things like coming to this kind of the code repo, and here this like the Pinot SPI is where a lot of things has been defined for like for example, this is like the schema, your like table, what is your schema definition, your like field spec, those kind of things. And here are like the execution kind of utils, which is like which this one, sorry, yeah, okay, this is like the different execution services, and you have like a different file system. For example, the default implementation will be like the local file system, but you will have like the interface being defined here as like the Pinot FS, and later on this thing will be used and be implemented in like different plugins. For example, here we are going to the Pinot plugins, and then we implement something called the Pinot S3. It's very simple kind of implementation. It's like you have a S3 configuration, you have a S3 Pinot file system. Then if you go here, it's pretty much like you just init this file system, and we are implementing like all those make directory, delete, move, copy, all those kind of interfaces from the Pinot FS. So yeah, this is like how the kind of the architecture from the developer perspective. And if you want to implement more, for example, if you are having your own kind of file input format, right? Think of like if you are using protobuf, and in the Pinot way, there will be like very simple way of like implementing this protobuf. This is like just the reader part is like it will implement a record reader. This is how Pinot will use it, for example, in the real-time ingestion. Not here. Okay, yeah. Well, one example here is like you can use, so this record reader will be used when you are creating a segment. for example, it will try to read a CSV file or like Avro file or protobuf file, and this reader will be init, and in the segment build phase, we're trying to use this record reader to iterate through your file, and we decode each row into a generic row, and then we try to index it. And the goal here will be like implementing how we can read a protobuf file by, for example, I need to init it with like the input stream, and then I need to figuring out how I can decode this protobuf. I need to get the schema, the protobuf descriptor. For example, if you are using Confluent, then there are also extra things. For example, you need to have a way to call like the Confluent schema registry and be able to fetch a schema and use that schema to init your protobuf kind of decoder, and then you can go with you can just go from there, right? So there will be like a lot of things that based on your own development or your own customization, you can actually go from like the SPI implementation and then go to like the very deepest like Pinot core engine, a lot of that kind of go to that depth. So basically run Pinot from local here. I'll say like the majority of the starters, I would suggest to go with this quick start. Okay. I'll suggest to go with this quick start. So in Pinot, there are like multiple quick starts. Usually this like you can test from this quick start. This quick start is a batch quick start. It means that it will try to build Pinot. This is in the Pinot tools repo. It will build a Pinot and then try to run a quick start with some demo kind of data structures and tables. It will automatically load, and then you can test it with your basic. For example, if you're doing like the query development, right? You want to write a new function, and then you can quickly use this kind of quick start to start Pinot and then test if your function is working from the end to end, because certain things it will be like if you're using your own data structures, you want to ensure like the serialization, deserialization across multiple components they are working, and then there's also something called like the real-time quick start. This is like when you, for example, if you are writing your own like decode way of like I want to decode a protobuf message or decode my own streaming, or I'm writing a new kind of connectors or the streaming kind of data sources, right? Apart from Kafka, you can write something else, right? So and then you can try to test it with this real-time quick start. And here, if you go with this Pinot, it's already been set up, and there's some like quick start data sources you can start it play around. So yeah, this is yeah also like the real-time quick start will start Kafka. Yeah. And now if you go to like the Pinot kind of the GitHub repo, usually you will see a lot of things in the GitHub issues. It says like beginner tasks. Depending on like if you are like for example, if your work is related to Pinot, and then feel free to create tickets and or create issues and claim the issue to yourself. And from our side, when we like doing all the development, we will also trying to find all those like beginners tasks. And some of them they were like probably non-beginner, but we actually want a hand, so we will put a tag of the help wanted. Some of those things may not be beginners, and but if you look at like the bugs or the help or the beginner tasks, feel free to pick it up. And your help, and it will be like greatly appreciated. And also like join this like Pinot dev Slack channel. If you want to ask any questions, if you're figuring out that there's something went wrong or some basics, it will also help us to enhance our guidelines and the documentations for the developers. Okay, yeah, the last part, not really the last part, but it's like another thing is like whenever you make the code change, you can validate it from the quick start. But meanwhile, making sure like you're writing like your own kind of test for both the unit test and integration test. For the integration test, a lot of things we were using right now here is like under this Pinot integration test repo, there's like org Apache Pinot integration test customer. Here we kind of like having a test suite, which you don't really, if you don't really care about like setting up the environment, but you'll be able to like create your own kind of data source. For example, when I wrote this vector database, I mean vector data type and the index support, I was just trying to write this like a vector test, extend like this customer data query integration test. And here I can try to extend this class a lot based on the abstraction class of like how to get the data, and then you can define how you want to configure the index. And here is like how your data source can either be streaming, which is like a Kafka, or it's a batch kind of offset. I mean, yeah, data set. And you can define how you want to create an Avro data source. You define the schema, and then you can fix some data. Here is like you create Avro file and then try to load the file, right? This is like you fix the data and then try to load the data. This is how you create a table. You want to create an index, the vector index, and then you can write some test by saying, okay, this is my vector similarity search kind of query, and I want to make sure this thing can work end to end. So yeah, this is like just one example. And yeah, here are some like suggestions for the beginner tasks. Is like, for example, if you want to just started like have a taste of what Pinot is, it's like very fruity. But try to like improve some test code coverage. And if you are like a user of the Pinot, but you want started to contribute, you can try to figure out like during your use of the Pinot, if you are like seeing some logs are missing, some information are missing, feel free to add metrics or the logging into Pinot and making sure it's won't flush your log files, but all those kind of observability kind of things will be like very welcomed. And apart from
Five
that, we
minute. Sorry to interrupt. 5 minute time check.
5 minutes. Okay. Yeah, I only have one slide. So, and also like you can like try to refactor some utils, moving some classes, for example, from like SPI to common or common to SPI, depending on the usage. And also like write examples. For example, in Quick Start, you can try to add more data sources and adding more like core examples, right? So for example, here in the Quick Start, we have like we'll have some examples of like running some queries, and we have some examples of like this is how you run a vector search, similarity search kind of things in the example. But you can, I mean, definitely you're welcome to contribute more to this. And last thing is like the fix the documentations. Here we have a GitHub repo for all the documentations. If you're ever going to like the Pinot docs, you find a lot of things that doesn't make sense or outdated. Feel free to submit the PRs and fix these documentations. Yeah, here are some final tips. It's like whenever like your feel something went wrong, don't blame yourself. Try to ask questions. Maybe it's maybe someone will point you like where to look at it, or something we will fix in the Pinot. Maybe something went wrong, right? So and also like focusing on initially like try to focus on like understanding the whole workflow end to end, try to bring up the system, play around some queries, figuring out the whole end to end things. And another thing here is like, although this is like pretty large system, it's like 400,000 kind of lines, I think. But still, it's like you're starting with small contributions, and later on you'll be able to grow to more impactful like contributors. And also we do have like the nominations for the Pinot Committers. And if you make if your contribution meets certain criteria, we'll try to invite you to be a Apache Pinot Committer. Also like feel free to ping me, and also like the Pinot devs whenever you have questions. So we'll help you to like give guidance, and even for like the live debugging, but also depending on like everyone's availability, because those people are also like they have the full-time job, so they're all the community work is like voluntary kind of work. So we'll also be thankful to all the Pinot developers, contributors, yeah, and users. Yeah, here are some resources of like the Pinot site, GitHub documentation. We also have X account if you want to subscribe, and also we have like the Slack channel, and also yeah, we have a YouTube channel as well. Yeah, sorry about I didn't put it. Yeah, but that's pretty much it. And thanks for listening. And I think we will later on refined, because this is the very first one, so we just talk about all the super basics. Later on we will have serious sessions of like how we can do more things into like developing things. For example, like how we can develop, how you can develop like your own like scalar functions, quickly add those things for your own usage. You can make it extension, and then you can deploy into your own kind of packages. Later on we will have all those sessions. Yeah, but thank you.
So if anyone has any questions, we're gonna break for 5 minutes and go through them now. Use the chat. Yes, Yardan will be sharing the recording.
Yeah, we'll definitely share the recording and the corresponding documentations.
So I'd
Okay,
just like
Yardan.
to get a temperature check based upon that. How many people felt that they were totally in line with that? They are able to jump in at that level? Was that too deep? Do we need like even more beginner stuff, or do we need even more advanced stuff? So just put in the chat where you feel like that was in comparison to where your own skill set is.
Yeah, I try to like make this session to be more on the beginner side, and try to make this like the lesson 0, which just setting up the environment, and try to invite everyone to at least run the Pinot from source code.
Xiang, we have a question from Anuj. Anuj, if you want to come off mute and ask your question, or I can ask on your behalf if you'd like.
So basically what I'm trying to understand is, if we have to start debugging the real-time flow, what's the starting point? Is it like, the quick start class only? Or because what I'm trying to understand is how a segment is created once, and how basically, the different low-level consumers are spun up from that. What's the good starting point for that?
Got it. Okay. Yeah, this means that you're already like pretty advanced. So in this case, for example, what I want to start is probably just do this real-time quick start. And if you go to this real-time quick start, you will be able to find out this kind of resources, right? So here you will have like some examples of like different table. Since you already know like how the table is, right? So going to here, you can specify this like your threshold, right? And then if you make this thing to be like a very small, and then you can try to run this real-time quick start. You can run it with debug session, and then you can probably use this like real-time segment data manager. So here is like pretty much like all the real-time segment consuming, and if it reaches the threshold, it will try to, let's say, commit and build segment locally, right? So this is like, yeah, you can't try to like go over this kind of code, right? So this is like how it's trying to do the segment commit and then build. You can put some breakpoint here, and then try to say when the real time kind of table really hit here, and then you can start to like debug from here, right? So this is like when, yeah, I also put some like breakpoint here. It's like when we need the table. This is like we are trying to fetch the stream partition offset. It means I'm trying to fetch the Kafka offset and then use that to start my consumption. Yeah. Oh, this is mutable segment implementation. This is like how we are going to do the value aggregation. Yeah, look at here. Now it means that this segment is trying to commit, right? And then here you have a commit status, and then you have your current offset, right? And then we try to get a log, and then we try to do something. And if there's a pauseless, and it goes some code path. If it's not a pauseless, and here we build a segment to commit, right? So, and then it may take a while, right? After the segment is built, then we try to commit the segment to the controller, and then try to set this status. So you can go over this kind of workflow, and as well as like the Pinot documentation to test how the kind of the end-to-end works. Yeah, and also like feel free to ping us in the channel. We will help you to debug or like figuring out something if that's like not in line with your understanding.
Hey, Xiang.
Cool.
I think it's time for
Abhishek.
Thanks, Robert. Let me quickly share my screen. Right. I think we can start. Hey, everyone. Today we will be discussing Apache Pinot Release Process. I think most of us in this call probably on and off involved with releasing a software package or their API or their application, whatever you say. I think for releasing your software package, you have 3 or 4 common steps, which more or less everyone is doing. First one is like determining a point or your code base, you can say from where you want to have a release. Once you determine that point, then you run some type of process to make an executable of your code base. The executable can be of any type. Maybe it's a container, or you can say jar or a Go package or any one type of thing, but you create an executable of your code base. You can do that step using some manual steps, using command line tools, or maybe some CI/CD tools, whatever it is. But you do in this create a executable package of your code base. Third step is like you sharing that created executable with a couple of folks to do a validation, verification, UAT testing, regression testing, integration testing, whatever you say. In this step, you make sure that whatever you it's like try to promote it, it's working absolutely fine as per the intention. And once you feel like the code base is like the executable is in a good shape, you finally promote it or share it with your end users, whosoever that software package is going to help. Apache process, Apache Pinot release process is somewhat similar. Since Pinot is in like under Apache open source community, so we have some guidelines from the Apache community itself, which we follow while doing a release. I think it's a good context right now. We can start discussing around next 5 or 10 or 15 minutes how overall it looks like for releasing a newer version of Pinot. I'll go next. About me, I am Abhishek. I am a Apache Pinot Committer. From last 3 or 4 years, I am associated with like parking digital app named Spot Hero, majorly operate in North America. In Spartiro, I am platform engineer, mostly involved on the search aspects of the application, from search infra to search APIs to experimentation around search results to ML models and everything, all aspects of the search. I'm on and off involved with that part. If anyone wants to connect with me, probably the best way is on LinkedIn. Why I am doing this call or this discussion is because the latest release 1.0, I did most of the steps for releasing it, and it got released on February 2025. If anyone wants to try it, we have a link here. GitHub release link is also there if anyone's trying to follow this presentation. A couple of previous releases is like 1.2, we released it last July, 1.1, 6th of March, 2024. And then 1.0, which is in 2023. That was like one of the major milestone release of the Pinot, where we it's like have multi-stage query engine in Pinot. So more or less, if anyone wants to see more details around all the releases, you can follow this link to go over like whatever the release is. Okay, so let's quickly see the release process. And just one thing I like to mention before like discussing these steps. It's like for some of the steps, you need a write permission for the GitHub Pinot repository. So which means you need to be like a committer or a PMC member to release a newer version of the Pinot. And to be honest, initially I thought I wouldn't be putting any presentation or any slides around the release process because we have a very detailed Confluence page and everyone try to follow that page itself to release a newer version. But then I realized, okay, just to give a bird eye overview about how it looks like with the release in Pinot, I put like these 4 steps. It's like which we can see, and then we can later see in details as well. From the prerequisite purpose, I say if a person is like doing a first time release, they have to set up some like PGP keys and upload it to the Apache server so that whosoever going to download the newer version will verify that the release is genuine one, and they verify the signatures. And then before actually cutting a release or anything, we kind of doing the notification over the with the community that, hey, we are looking to release a next version of Pinot. We are going to cut a release branch, say X of this month or X of next month, and whosoever it's like that's where people get the opportunity if they feel like the changes they are doing, they want to get it merged into the main branch so that they will see in the next version, they can work on it, get it into the stage where it can be merged into the master branch. And then and they will be having like some expectations that a new version is coming down the line. From the next step, which is like preparing a release, this is more or less 5 or 6 steps a person who is doing a release perform. First one is like creating a release branch from the master branch. And then based on that branch, he or she will be updating the licenses, notice of the various binaries, which got updated during the recent development, and all the proper is like which version of the binary we are using it, what are the software packages, dependencies this Pinot is dependent on, all the detailed listing we will do there. Once we update with binary and releases and everything, then we move to the next stage, which is like preparing a, you can say, release candidate. For preparing a release candidate, we run a couple of steps, Maven build-based branches to create a release candidate, which is more or less binary of the source code plus executable binaries. And then we, based on that, we will create a pre-release candidate on GitHub. Once we do with this release candidate, we try to run a compatibility test against it so that it wouldn't break with the previous versions available so that whosoever is like going to upgrade the Pinot version wouldn't see any like breaking changes. The last thing we will do in this step is like uploading it to the SVN server so that the rest of the folks and the community member validate the release candidate to see if it, like everything, whatever they feel like is up to the mark. That's what preparing a release looks like. The third step, which is like a voting process, and these are like we try to follow open source community guidelines. We notify the people, rest of the like community that hey, there is a new release candidate. Please validate it. There is like a detailed document how you can validate it with like verifying the signatures, locally compiling the source code, running it, and running the compatibility test if you want to. And during this release process, if anyone like say that, hey, this is not working correctly, this is he or she is seeing a bug, then we probably recall the release candidate and try to fix that issue, and then re-release the candidate with the updated version so that we wouldn't be like releasing a newer version with some bugs or some issues. Once we finalize with everything and we get enough of votes from the community that the new release candidate looks fine, we finally reach to the finalization step, which is more or less updating a GitHub pre-release to the release version, doing announcements, sending our emails over to the community members, Slack communications, building an official release Docker images so that whosoever wants to upgrade it, they can download it directly. So this overall like a typical release cycle of Pinot looks like. I'll go a little more detail on it. And this is the conference page, which I guess more or less everyone is following it. And whatever I said in the previous slide, that's all is documented here. It starts with the prerequisite, and it's having all the commands, which is like you create your PGP key, how you are going to upload it to the various Apache servers, those keys, and then you need a PMC member help to update the SVN server as well, so that these keys or signatures will be available for the rest of the community for doing the validation. Once you do that, a couple of the things which are manual here, and I wish community can help with that to automate the process, is like updating the license binary. This is, I would say, semi-manual step where you run the build and you come up with like a portal where all the recent libraries versions are there, and then you do a comparison with the license file, what is updated, what is not, and then you slowly pick up the new one, updated the version and everything, merging them with the latest version, and then you come up with like a license file with the updated one, which is supposed to be there for that particular release. This process is little time consuming, especially on like doing a comparison what is in your release branch, what is previously is there. And then the second important part of it is come up with the it's like release notes of the release itself. So what you do is like from the last release to the commits on which the release branch is based, you try to get all the commits and see what are the important it's like merge happen between the time. You try to go over the documentation or details of the PR itself, what exactly changes happen in this PR itself, and then categorizing those changes in the like a different feature set, like multi-stage engine to say in 1.3 we introduce time series engine to some other core engine stuff, and what are the bugs, enhancements, security vulnerabilities, all type of changes which you feel is important for the community. You mention it in the release notes. That's another manual step which takes some good amount of time, and plus validation from the rest of the folks whosoever worked on that particular feature. Once you do all this stuff, And then the final part is like your release candidate. These are like some of the steps you follow. The commands are pretty intuitive what you are trying to do. And you release a candidate, you create a pre-release on GitHub, you run a compatibility test, everything looks good. You try to manually validate the release candidate itself, which is this 7 or 8 steps. Once you feel good, you notify the community, and then community members helps you in validating the release candidate. And they are going to perform these steps again on their local machine or wheresoever they feel free to do it. And once, if they feel like everything looks good, they will reply back on the email that the release candidate look good, or there is an issue, they found issue, has to be fixed, and all that stuff. And that's just like just the announcement part. So this is like more or less a typical release look like for the Apache Pinot. Lastly, I say references. So these are some of the references. What is a release process, which is a Confluence page, release validation process page, and our main GitHub repository link. That's how overall the release process look like for Apache Pinot. I stop here and wait for any questions or anything you guys want to ask.
Abhi, that was a great overview. Thank you so much for kind of walking us through that and spending so much time on the release process. You mentioned there was a couple of areas of improvement that you found going through the release process. Did you create issues for those automation tasks?
Not yet. I will create that. And actually, if anyone in the community feel like they want to help in this area, feel free to contact me. I will create the tickets after this call itself. It's one, especially this part, which is a validation part, and it can be easily doable with one shell script. It's a couple of commands we can do it, and at least the validation part will be easily we can do a easily automation on this side. For release notes, I'm not sure we can do it. Maybe with the help of agentic AI we can. But the other part, and that's where my curiosity is, like updating the licenses. I don't know how rest of the open source projects are doing it. Do they have any automation tool where you use it to update all those licenses, which is doing a manual comparison with whatever you have in the file versus what's been updated, and then updating a newer version of it. So I'll cut a ticket around it, and if anyone wants to look and work on it, please contact me or anyone. I'm more than happy to work on this side of it.
That was good. Does anybody else have any questions about the release process? Now would be a good time to ask them. One thing I've always wondered about is, if you're working on a change at some point in time, how do you know if your change is going to be in the release, or if you really needed to go into the release? What's the process there?
Right. So my understanding is we always cut a release branch from the master branch. So if your changes are merged in the master branch, then it is definitely going to be there in the newer version of the release. And that's
but when is the master branch cut exactly?
Everything, all the changes once it's approved is getting merged into the master. So master is like a main branch, from where all like the newer releases branch will be cut. So let's suppose if we want to do a newer version, a new release version today, we will whatever is in the master branch, we will cut a release branch from that master branch.
But that point in time is not predictable. That point in time when the release branch is cut is not. There's
something we decide together, and we say, hey, I think the contribution we have made in the last month has been significant, and therefore it could be nice to have a new release. But we don't have any defined cadence on releases.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I think that's something that we.
I put like a quarterly kind of reminder on my calendar, and every kind of quarter I'll try to call if there's anyone want to cut a release. But in the end of the day, I think our open source release cadence is more like twice a year. That's the usual cases. Yeah,
Yeah.
usually like half a year we'll have enough like features and worth like kind of like a release, right? So, and also like for Pinot, how to say, the version number is something like we probably need another session to discuss, but actually 1.3 1.2 to 1.3 release actually has a lot of like great feature changes, and I'll say like although it's like a minor version upgrade, but it's actually a major. There are a lot of major features being released. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
we
just
should
like a
we should
lot of
discuss
things we
about
are like
the
backward compatible.
version.
Yeah. So we don't really upgrade the major version.
I'm a believer on this new, let's say, new method of naming versions using the release date, mostly year and month, because by doing that you can easily see. First of all, you don't get full, and you don't think that there is like some kind of semantic versioning, because it is not. And at the same time, you can see how long you have been running an older version instead of having the latest one, right?
I guess
I'm with you. I don't mind the bump Pinot version from 1.3 to 25.0.
I guess the one issue that I want to address, though, is that when we're thinking about doing the next cut, like a 1.4, we probably need to give people a heads up, like, this release is coming by this date. Make sure your code's in,
Yeah.
tag it in some way, or, make sure that it's you've notified people that you want to get this thing into the branch, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Usually,
Thanks,
like
Peter.
when we
That's what I
decide
was
the date,
trying to aim for.
we will call to the volunteers in the Pinot Committer channel, because only Pinot Committer has certain privilege in terms of like commit code, create a branch, those kind of things in the Apache repo. So we always ask Pinot Committer to cut a release. And after that, the Pinot Committer, usually the process is like it will call, okay, I'm going to cut a release probably like on a certain date. Usually it's like within like 2 weeks, right? And then it will give people enough room to like either asking for some kind of time buffer, or probably later on we can actually even after we cut the release branch, we can still patch like critical bug fixes. This is like also like I think for Abhishek we also say like RC0, and there's some issue, and then we do RC1, and during the RC1 we probably also committed a few like critical bugs, bug fixes. So yeah, it's not like super harsh of like the thing is being cut at this, but we will cherry pick a few later work if it's important enough.
Are we getting close to cutting the 1.4 release?
I
Given that
think
it's
I'm going to call it
start of
out.
Q2?
Probably, yeah, I think I'm going to call it out this month. Yeah.
There you guys go. We got till the end of the month to get your stuff merged in.
Yeah.
Also, speaking about time, I want to thank everybody for their time. I know I'm going to have to dip out. Yarden, you want to say anything closing here?
Yeah. So thank you for everyone who joined. Thank you, Xiang and Abhishek, for sharing. We will definitely debrief and discuss this call, and we really want those calls. I mean, those calls are by you and for you. So feel free to share in the chat what worked well, what didn't, what you want to see in the future calls, and we will make sure you get value out of those. The next call to be on June 3rd. I will share the event page again on our dedicated channel. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me and to anyone we're speaking here today. And thank you. Wishing you a great day.
Thank you.
Bye all.
Hi.